Hello guys, and welcome to Out of DevOps. This is the 5th episode of the SCRUM course from a non-certified Scrum Master. Today I'm super excited because we're going to talk about the SCRUM Retrospective, which for me is one of the most important meeting in Scrum. And if you're new, hi, I'm Anto. This is Out of DevOps, a YouTube channel for software engineers where I talk about agile, continuous delivery, coding, and everything that concerns the world of software engineering. So if you're interested in these topics, don't forget to subscribe. So a few episodes ago, I mentioned that the backlog refinement is one of the most intense meetings from a focus point of view, so where people have to put lots of attention and energies in doing that in that ceremony. And I think it's the same with the retrospective. I think this is the most intense activity in the sprint from the emotional point of view. It's also very important to plan the retro in mind, but we're going to discuss about this later. I think I'm jumping the gun a little bit. So let's talk about the retrospective, what it is. The Sprint Retrospective is one of the ceremonies and should happen at the end of the sprint, so before planning the next sprint and immediately after the sprint review. We didn't talk about sprint review, it's going to be probably the next episode, but let's focus on the retrospective. So every sprint the team has a unique opportunity to inspect and adapt, which means that the team can analyze what has been done during the sprint. They can celebrate successes, but they can also discuss what were the pain points and trying to avoid them in the next iterations. So that's why I think is the core, the essence of Scrum, because through this meeting you can improve the process and you can improve next iterations. So if this meeting is misunderstood or not done properly, it's super easy to end up in a meeting where people just complain without coming up with good solutions or with suggestions or with ways to fix the problem. And this is one of the biggest mistakes I often see in sprint reviews. But let's see what we do during the retrospective, right? So there are many formats. So if you try to Google retrospective formats, you end up with a number of websites, and in each of them you can see a never-ending list of formats. One of the most typical is glad, sad, mad, or start, stop, continue. Essentially you create 3 columns with start, stop, or continue, or glad, sad, mad, and you put in each of them tickets about what you want to start, stop, or continue, or what you were glad about or sad or mad about during that sprint. And then you pick one by one, you discuss them. At the end you vote on which one is the most pressing issues that the team wants to solve. The focus is to fix at least one thing every sprint. It doesn't matter, we don't want to fix all of them at once. So I mentioned that this is a very emotional intense meeting. Why? It's emotionally intense because most of the time you may hurt feelings of other people. It's very important that it's well communicated, that it's a safe zone, and that people should not take things personally. But every single time there are people involved, it's very easy that things become personal. At the end of the retro you should come up with a list of actions, and you can assign these actions to individual people in your team. It's better to have people next to each action to review them. These are 2 things that most of the time are not done properly in the retrospective. So you see that in a retrospective people discuss, come up with brilliant idea, no one takes notes, no one defines the actions, and more importantly, even if they are defined, the actions are never assigned to someone. When you don't assign the action to someone, the next iteration, the next retrospective, 100% you're going to discuss the same thing again, because the problem won't be solved. It's going to be just those 2 hours, and then people will forget about it until the next retro comes. The other thing that most of the time is overlooked is reviewing the actions during the next sprint. So because you have this once a sprint, so it's once every 2 weeks for a 2-week sprint, people tend to forget. So to avoid that, what you can do is creating a reminder mid-sprint to just go through the actions and see if they have been addressed, what is still pending, just as a sort of reminder for the entire team. So what else can I mention? It's very important to keep this meeting time box, because when people start complaining or start engaging in conversation, they can go for hours. So you need to keep the focus, and you need to control the developers, and most of the time, especially the junior one, because they can have more problems controlling their emotions and controlling the way they communicate. So it's very important, and the Scrum Master plays a role of facilitator during these conversations. So now let's go back to what I mentioned at the beginning of the video, and let's discuss why it's important to plan the retrospective in your mind. So as I said, the retrospective is most of the time is unpredictable, because you have many people and they may want to communicate or express their frustration, and when this happens, it's hard to not have people's feelings involved, and you may risk to hurt people, or you may risk to be hurt by others. So you need to be prepared. You need to have a clear plan on what's important for you, what you want to avoid the next iterations, and also you have to pay attention to the language that you're going to use, the words that you're going to pick, and this is extremely important, because it's true that it's a safe zone, but if you break something during the retro, it's going to be very, very hard to build it back. So this is it. Let me know what you think and how you run your retro, and hope you liked it, and see you soon. Bye.